Just believe yourself. Don't give up. 자, 여러분 2030 축에 전환 정말 작년에 대히트를 쳤던 책입니다. 작년에 또 더군다나 마우로기옌 교수님이 우리 MKTV에 오셔서 내일 수업을 또 진행을 해주셔서 여러분 정말 폭발적인 조회수를 가졌었는데요. 엄청 바쁘실 텐데 제가 부탁을 했죠. 한 번도 우리가 와튼스쿨이나 캠브리지 대학 교수님한테 강의를 받은 적이 없다. 근데 직강으로 강의를 받을 수 있는 방법이 없겠냐 막 이랬더니 글쎄 뭐 바쁜데 사실 그 대학에 막 직원이 수백 명이래요. 그걸 관리를 해야 되니까 얼마나 바쁘시겠어요. 그래도 제가 막 졸르고 그래서 드디어 그 마우로기옌 교수님께서 오케이를 하셨습니다. 그래서 저희 영국에 있는 좋은 촬영팀을 섭외해서 영국 캠브리지 대학으로 보냈고, 교수님이 특별히 신경 써서 왜 그 영국 대학이 수백 년 된 대학이잖아요. 그 고풍스러운 도서관 이런 데서만 다 촬영을 해 주셨습니다. 새로운 기회, 새로운 부, 그리고 새롭게 우리가 살아갈 어떤 행복한 미래를 스스로 설계해야 된다. 이젠 아무도 짜주지 않는다는 거죠. 내가 스스로 만들어야 된다는 거예요. 거기에 대해서 Creating Your Future라는 주제로 저희가 교수님의 강의를 오픈하게 됐습니다. 진짜 대박. 야, 정말 이런 일이 있을 수 있을까요? 이게 다 김미경의 추진력 때문 아니겠습니까? 짜잔! 자, 마우로기옌 교수님이 MKYU, MKTV 구독자들 너무 좋아하시면서 정말 진짜 열심히 찍었다고 막 자랑을 하시는 거예요. 미래 앞으로 10년, 20년 뭘 준비해야 되는지에 대해서 하나하나 말씀하셨고, 거기에 또 우리가 뭘 받았냐 하면은 교수님의 강의안을, 그 주옥 같은 강의안을 받았어요. 그래서 이번에 그 강의안을 다 다운받을 수 있게 해드릴 거예요. 이런 기회가 없으니까 잘 보시고요. 사실 이렇게 캠브리지 그 대학장님의 그 미래에 대한 강의를, 인사이트 넘치는 강의를 이렇게 직접 우리가 영상으로 수강할 수 있다는 것만으로 그 대학 안 가도 되잖아. 이것만으로 얼마나 멋진 일인지 저는 정말 이렇게 몹시 흥분됩니다. 약 12개의 주제가 있는데요. 주제에 대해서는 이제 제가 그 화면으로 띄워드릴 테니까 여러분 한번 보시고요. 자, 이 강의가 MKYU에서 곧 커밍 순 오픈됩니다. 여러분 강의 오픈될 때 열심히 수강하셔서 여러분 캠브리지 대학의 강의를 여러분 한국에서 듣는 기쁨을 누리시고 지식도 얻으시고 미래도 확실히 준비하는 계기가 되셨으면 좋겠습니다. 여러분 캠브리지와 화이팅! MKYU와 화이팅! MKTV와 화이팅! 힘내세요! So how have you been? Please say hello to Korean fans of you.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much for having me here. I have been, very busy working, but also traveling a little bit now that the pandemic has been receding. And, essentially thinking about the future and thinking about all of these things that are going on in the world that may be changing the way we live our lives. But in general, I'm very happy and as I'm sure you are as well, very busy with work.
Yeah, I think this is the right time we are talking about the next step, okay, after the pandemic. So now, as you say, Benjamin Franklin is the only one who's been in Wharton School longer than you. And now you are the dean of Cambridge Business School, right? It's just out of curiosity, what's the difference between American and British universities?
Well, there's many, many differences.
Right?
British universities are older. Cambridge is 800 years old. And of course, what that means is that there's more traditions. There's more, more activities that essentially try to preserve those traditions. American universities are younger. I think they are more market-oriented. But both of them are very good places, and I'm glad that I'm now learning more about the British system. It's very interesting to me to learn about other countries and how they operate.
What is the difference in the British system?
Well, I think the biggest difference is at a place like Cambridge is the tutoring. So in other words, that students go to class where there are lectures, but in addition, as you know, they live in a residential college. And in that residential college, then there are tutors for each subject, like mathematics or history. And so in addition to your professors in class, where they give you a lecture, you also have a tutor in your residential college that essentially helps you study.
There's more conversation between professor and students, right?
I would say there is more of a personal relationship here. Yes, I would say more so than in the United States.
That's great. Okay, first of all, I'm happy to launch your course at MKYU. I was really touched, that you kept your promise to open a course at MKYU when you visited Korea a year ago. This is your first ever course for Korea, so I'm very honored. So why did you decide to accept the offer to open an online course for MKYU students?
Well, it's very simple. If you remember, I visited you in Korea, in Seoul, in the month of October, just a few months ago. And we did an interview. We talked about many different kinds of things. And when we were having dinner, you told me, well, it would be wonderful if you would prepare a class for MKYU. And I accepted on the spot because, as a professor, I want to reach as many people as possible. And I know that your university is not just very successful, but also offers very high quality content. And so I thought, this is like a dream come true. I deeply care about South Korea. If you remember, I told you that the first time that I visited the country was in the year 1994, a very long time ago. And so for me, the opportunity to be able to reach Koreans in Korea or Koreans outside of Korea, because I know you also have many followers throughout the world, is just a wonderful opportunity. And I'm absolutely thrilled to see that you're going to be launching this course in the next few weeks.
We are also thrilled to take a class from you, professor of Cambridge University. We don't need to go to England or Cambridge, but we can take a class.
Exactly.
Great.
And not only that, if you remember, we recorded the classes in my college. So I also have a college here. My residential college is Queen's College. And so we went to a very nice, very old room, almost 500 years old, to record the sessions for the class.
I can't wait to see that. Yeah, your library or your class, very old traditional place, right?
So as you know, I'm an optimist. I think that as individuals, we can shape our future, okay? And what I want to do with this class is to give people a sense as to how the world is changing and what opportunities are being created. And then I want to invite them to take advantage of those opportunities. In the course, I give a lot of recommendations as to how to think about those opportunities, how to take advantage of them, and more importantly, how to prepare ourselves. What kind of education we need, what kinds of knowledge we need to take advantage of those opportunities. I think wealth is important in the sense that we all want to have a good life. I think this is a human instinct. Right. We want to do well in life. Wealth is important, but I think even more important is wellness. That is to say that we feel good about ourselves, that we have a healthy life. More importantly, that we have a balanced life. Right? Okay. That we're not only thinking about money, that we're also thinking about other things in life.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the course tries to touch on all of those topics.
Great. Now here is the curriculum. Could you briefly introduce the structure of the course and what you will be sharing?
Of course.
Okay.
So the course has 12 different topics on it, 12 different units. The first one is just an introduction, where I try to explain to people why they should be taking this class and what they can expect from it. And then the next two chapters, the next two units in the course are about the opportunities that are being created in the world through population changes. Okay. So I talk about changes in population, which, as you know, is something that greatly preoccupies me. But I also talk about generations, how I think we're going into a world in which we're going to see people of different ages studying together, working together, entertaining themselves together, shopping together, learning together, right? I think your university, MKYU, is a very good example of that, because you have people of different age groups participating, right?
Yeah, right.
This is really, really powerful. Then I have a unit dedicated to women, okay? That's the last demographic part or demographic topic, because as I have always been saying, women are now in a very different situation than 20 or 50 years ago. I understand that you have more than 50% of your students are women.
Yeah,
and I want to speak to them directly, but I also want to speak to the men, right? I want the course to be relevant to the men. Then we go into the topic of the growth of cities, which is very important in South Korea, as well as in many other countries around the world. And what are the opportunities that that creates? And then after that is essentially about the skills that people will need to be successful, to be happy in this new world. So I talk about how to think about new technologies. What are the useful skills? And I emphasize here knowledge about math, knowledge about how to read and to write, how to absorb information.
Yeah.
I also talk about the future of jobs and careers and how to think about them. How to rethink the way we live our lives is another unit, what I call the life course. So when you're young, when you're middle-aged, when you're becoming older, how to think about your life, how to think about the decisions that you need to make, okay? And then finally, I have one unit about the entrepreneurial spirit, how to become an entrepreneur, but how to be entrepreneurial, even if you don't have your own company or your own venture, which is a topic that I think is really important. So I think everybody should be entrepreneurial, not just entrepreneurs, right? And then lastly, I offer, as I do in my book, 7 tips and tricks, and I go over that. And finally, the final unit is a self-assessment exercise where people can get a sense as to how much they have learned from the course and how prepared they are to take advantage of the future. And I offer a very simple way of people self-assessing whether they are ready or not for the future. And if they're not, they should continue to study. They should continue to take more courses from MKYU.
Wow, this is a real college class. Great. I'm so excited for your course. The world, world is under intense transformation. A lot of people are afraid of what will happen in the coming future. So we need to prepare ourselves. This course will help many people who want to study about it. So let me ask you a few questions about this course. The first question is, in the last interview, you remember that you mentioned that important fact will completely reverse demographic trends, that we live longer, we have fewer children. It seems like you are also emphasizing the word, the generation, in this course as well. Please explain why it is important for us to study about generations.
Well, generations are normally associated with certain age groups. So people born, let's say, in the 1970s or the 1980s or more recently. And obviously, people who belong to the same generation, they are exposed to similar influences. And although we shouldn't overemphasize too much the differences among generations, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, it does matter, as you say, that we are going into a world in which, because we have fewer babies and we're living longer, then generations, people who are in their 50s in terms of age, or in their 60s, in their 70s, and then numerically, they're going to become more important. But also remember, there's something really, really key going on, which is that as we grow older now, we remain in better physical and mental shape. So in other words, people at age 60 or people at age 70, they can continue to be very active. They can continue to run a very active lifestyle.
Yeah, right.
And many people are going back to learn new things because they want to continue working, maybe in something different, right? There's millions and millions of people who are now in their 60s in the world who are going back to learn, oftentimes using a digital platform, right? So I think that's really important because also, look, in South Korea now, somebody who celebrates today their 60th birthday, somebody who turns 60 years old today, has another 24 years of life on average, right? And if you're a woman, even longer than that. Well, that's another lifetime. We have to do something over 25 years on average, right? We cannot just be at home watching videos or listening to music. I think increasingly people in those generations, they want to be active. They want to participate in society. Many of
just
them
like
want to
me,
continue
you know, I'm going to be 60-year-old woman, but in 2 years, but still young, still very active, right?
Exactly. You and I are of exactly the same age. So I'm also the same age as you are, and I don't intend of stopping anytime soon. So younger people are also part of this. They have to also understand that increasingly we're going to see multiple generations, several generations studying together, working together, entertaining themselves together. This is the world we're going to. And I think it's a big change from the past, where each generation used to do a separate thing.
That's why you talk about ageless generation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ageless.
Ageless.
Ageless. So in other words, that I think age is still relevant, but it's going to become less important than what it was in the past.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the topic of jobs and careers. You said that people will switch jobs and careers more easily, and education is the best investment possible. Can you elaborate on that? Why education ourselves is the best investment in the future?
Well, it's for two reasons mainly. One is that we are in an economy where knowledge is really important, right? Knowledge. And we're also in a situation in which technology, new inventions, new innovations, they change what is useful knowledge and what is not so useful knowledge.
Right.
And so in the past, we could afford to go to school just once, right? And whatever we learned at school would last for our entire life. But now there are two problems. One is that we live longer, right? And secondly, technology changes things so that what we learn at school becomes old, becomes antiquated, becomes obsolete much faster.
Right.
And so it's a combination of us living longer and technological change that essentially means that we have to also change as human beings. We cannot just continue to rely on what we learned when we were very, very young. We have to refresh our knowledge. And that's why universities such as MKYU offer opportunities for people to grow. Now, if people go back to school, if they learn new things, that also means they may choose a different career, let's say when they are 40 or 50. And increasingly, there's more and more people who are doing that. There's more and more people who decide at some point, well, I've been working on this for 30 or 40 years, but now I would like to change. I would like to switch onto something else. And by the way, I think that's very healthy. That's very human. That I think is very good for psychological well-being.
Right. You know, then a few months ago, the many traditional universities asked me how to make your MKYU online system. So they said, yeah, well, traditional university system must learn from your university because, you know, the many universities, they don't have any online system. Yeah, they have online system, but yeah, they think they don't have any, what is that, the great system for gather together all range of ages of students, 30s to 60s, yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, because everybody has to change here, and universities have to change. Look, my university here, as I told you earlier, has been in existence for 800 years. We also need to change. We need to incorporate technology. We need to incorporate new ways of learning. But it's not only that. I think also companies have to change because, you see, companies prefer to hire younger workers. And once an employee is 60 years old, they start thinking, oh, this person, you know, is not as good. We prefer somebody younger. So I think we all need to change. Governments need to change. Companies need to change. Universities need to change. But let me tell you, a month ago, I gave the first lecture in the metaverse.
Oh, really? So in the metaverse?
In the metaverse, so I was using the goggles, you know,
Really?
and I was giving a lecture. It was difficult because it was the first time for me.
Okay.
But that is the future, right? The future is more technology. The future is more experiential learning. The future is more interactive learning. And that's what people want now. They want innovation in education.
Yeah. You've been experienced all kinds of environment for your teaching, okay? You've been teaching how long? For 30 or 40 years?
30 years now. I started teaching when I was 27 years old. I still remember the first class that I taught. And, at the time, we were using the slide projector. You remember those pieces of plastic that you would put on a bed of lights and you would project?
Ah, yeah, I know. I remember that. Yeah. OHP. We called OHP. Okay. That's
exactly.
Yeah, plastic.
So that was before PowerPoint.
Yes, right.
That was before digital platforms such as Zoom, and of course that was before the metaverse.
All right, yeah, we've been through all kinds of environment, all kinds of systems. Okay, in this course, you emphasized about rethink the life course and saving for retirement earlier. How early should we start saving for retirement?
Oh, as early as possible. Not just for retirement, but also so that we can have mental peace, right? That if something happens, you'll have a cushion. And also, I think it's not just saving for retirement, it's also saving to, for example, take a year off and go back to school. That's another way in which saving is important. I think saving is really important. And if you remember, our parents were very big savers. They save more money than we do, right? We're more like spending money, right? So I think we need to recover that culture of savings, not just for retirement, but also for being able to adjust, to adapt to all of these changes in the world. And in the course, as you said, in the class, I devote one unit to this problem of how to manage money more broadly, how important it is for people to understand that money is not an end in itself, it's rather something, an instrument for us accomplishing other things, right? Like living a good life that is safe and secure. So I think it's very important to think about how we manage our personal finances. And that's why I decided to include one unit in the course about that.
I believe this course would be great for marketers and CEOs and many young people. Who else do you think would be benefit from taking this course?
You mean people above the age of 50 or 60 or 70? Absolutely. Because, I think people in that age group, they really need to reinvent themselves also. They need to rejuvenate themselves because, again, we're living much longer than before. But also, quite importantly, and I think this is a very important argument, we need those generations of people to collaborate with the younger generations.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so I think I decided to design this class in a way that it appeals to groups of people of different ages.
Great. The following questions are from our students. The first question is, I'm a woman in my 40s who stopped working full-time. The technology is changing too fast, but I think I will live another 40 years. What should I study to have a second career in the future?
This is a great question. And look, I think the most important principle here is for people to do what they're passionate about. I am an educator. You're also an educator because we're passionate about education. Right? But maybe this student who asked the question is passionate about, for example, helping people who have problems. And maybe the right career path is to become a psychologist, right? Or maybe it's somebody who cares about climate change. And then the correct path would be to learn about climate science or to learn about how to organize something that would help us cope with that problem. So I think the first thing is to follow your passion.
Okay.
But then more importantly, to think that we have to remain learners throughout our lives. That's really important. That you have to continue learning. And that if you stop learning, then that's the way in which you essentially find no reason, right, to be happy in life. I think as human beings, we are natural learners. And that's why it's so important that we produce content, such as, for example, this course, that speaks to people of different ages. So constantly reinventing ourselves, rejuvenating ourselves, learning, that's really important, especially in this economy that I was talking about earlier, which is driven by knowledge and is driven by technology.
So you're a professor, but you are still learning about something, right? What are you learning these days?
Absolutely, because I'm also the dean of the school, so I'm learning about how to motivate an organization with 400 employees. I'm learning about how to make sure that our school offers the courses that will be in great demand out there. So I have to understand the market. I have to study the market for education. I also have to understand financial aspects, as you do, right? You have to understand that in order to launch new courses, for example, you need to make investments and so on and so forth. So yes, I learn every day. And you know, there's something that I do every day that helps me become more creative, which I think is something that everybody should do. So when I am about to go to bed, I spend 15 minutes, just 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
On my phone, okay? I go to my phone, I search for something, for a topic I know very little about. It could be about archaeology. It could be about medicine. It could be about, you know, the arts. And I read about it for 15 minutes every day, every night, before I go to sleep. And it's typically a topic that has very little to do with what I do normally on a daily basis. But learning about other things help me make connections, help me be more creative. I would encourage your viewers, right, on your YouTube channel, on your university, MKYU, to do that, right? Because it opens up your mind to so many different kinds of things.
Wow. You are trying to connect on it's just something new, okay? Something different. It's something new. Wow.
Yes, because our human brain, remember, is all about making connections. That's how our brain works. If you only learn about something very specific that you really like, then you are not fully developing all of your connections. And if you just do it for 15 minutes every day, it will have, I think, a very big beneficial impact.
Wow. Wow, it's really great tip. Yeah, only 15 minutes to try to connect the world to the world, right? Great. This is the last question. I read and listened to future trend. However, I'm not sure how ready I am actually. Will your course help me know where I am and how to prepare for the future?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, the 12th unit includes a self-assessment instrument, which takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do, so it's not very long. And that self-assessment tool will help people see to what extent they are ready. And if they're not ready, then I would advise them to take more classes, right? From MKYU. And I would advise them, as I just did, to also read about different things, to try to make more connections in their brains. We are human beings. We need to exercise our brains.
Okay, so many people around the world gained valuable insight through your book, 2030. Now people want to know what will the world be like in 2040 or 2050. I think this course will help us get a grasp on it.
Yes, but it will be coming out sometime in the year 2023. So it's still more than a year from now.
It's more than
I'm working on it right now.
Oh, great. I hope to have you back in Seoul soon. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you and with MKYU.
I hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.